Let's get straight into it. We're gonna run through all the sites. So first thing is don't really have any sites from North America like that. Because we don't really see them as like fully developed as part of as complex as Egypt or places in India and so on. Um, Same thing for let's say the Amazon. Don't expect that that area was occupied. Aboriginals in Australia might have a few sites, but it's not a lot. Um, Places like Russia that's too closed off, so we don't have enough information. Canada would have been in deep ice age, so we don't have a lot of information about that. Um, and when you get to China, same thing. China, not a lot of information. So most of the sites focus in Mediterranean, India, coastlines of Asia, some parts of Indonesia, and then you have coastline of South America, and a few places in Mexico. Then you have Rapa Nui right there. So we have Tanis, so that's a place in Egypt. So it's the first of the 118 places that we consider megalithic or pre-Diluvian. Um, this is kind of some of the stuff that you'll see in that area. You'll see obelisks, um, granite, a lot of granite statues. Um, One of the things you also have to understand is like for granite to be worn down to this level, it's either a lot of erosion or many thousands of years for granite to splackate like this or have layers of it being weathered down or worn down. Um, Not sure what caused the damage to some of these things in the site, but I see a lot of the things are broken, columns are broken, statues are broken. And as you see, they're very large in comparison to people. So not sure what caused the damage. So that's just a brief look at tennis. Next place is the Longyu Cave. Longyu Cave, this is in China. One of the few places out of China that we kind of can get to. It's kind of a tourist attraction, so there's a good amount of photos. It was recently rediscovered. Prior to that, they can't really attribute it to any known ancient Chinese civilization. It's just a site that they recently rediscovered and kind of cleaned up. So that's kind of how it looks. On to the next site, we get to Göbekli Tepe. This is one of the more known sites around the world. It's significantly older than most of the places that they have attributed that age to. Um, this one is at least 12,000 years old. A lot of columns, depiction of large animals that are extinct now. So this is one of the columns. They usually have numbers for the columns. I think this is column 72 or something. Um, that's kind of how Göbekli Tepe looks. On to the next slide. So this is a temple out of this looks like Malaysia or Indonesia. Um, these temples are usually attributed to Buddhist or Hindu civilizations. We can take a look at it. A lot of them would look similar in to those in India. Um, uh, Seem to have undergone some level of destruction. A lot of the towers have fallen. Um, this is kind of how it looks. Very reminiscent of cathedrals in, let's say, Europe. Um, some renovation taking place. A lot of these are still used for religious practices, but in our discussion, we might say a lot of these places are, let's say, 12,000 years old. But a lot of archaeology will say these places are a few hundred years old, and were recently built by more recent civilization. And that's how it looks. Um, One of the more controversial places on this list, the Richard structure, Richard structure. This place has been visited by one of our good friends, David Steganson. He's visited this place about 4 times, I would say. Um, this is what it looks like from the air, but on the ground, it's not so spectacular. Um, that could be because of a lot of damage that was done, but it looks like a significant structure from the air. At the ground level, it's just kind of looks like this. This place is actually pretty large. It's over 40 kilometers wide. These are salt deposits, either from a lake or rivers or could be the sea or seawater. Um, it's one of the things that I think about this place is if it was man-made, this smaller donut over here was like a test location where they kind of see what structure they could have made, and then they built this larger scale structure here. Um, it's kind of some of the cuisine from the area of Mauritania. So what it looks like from a plane, as you see, it's a very significant structure. Some tribal beaver buildings, like a smaller scale version of it. Um, and yeah, this is what some of the stones, natural stones from the area looks like. In Plato's description of Atlantis, he did mention red and black stones. So the stones in the area are red and black, but you don't see any significant structures that would indicate that there were temples or pyramids or anything like that there. So it's either this place was really ravaged by some sort of disaster or it's just a natural thing. Yeah, all right, so that's enough on the Richard. Next location on this list is, I won't try and pronounce that. Let's see where it brings us. So it's somewhere in Peru or Bolivia. Yeah, so as you see clearly, megalithic construction, these blocks are perfectly shaped, perfectly fitting together. You have some splacation on this stones on the outer layers. Um, that's usually indication that either extreme weather or extreme heat. That's what usually causes splacation like that on stone. As you see, perfectly formed. Some person will say these are geopolymers. Some person will say these are concrete molds and so on and so forth. But a lot of these stones are just natural stone from the region. They have a lot of andesite in Peru and Bolivia because of the volcanic nature of the area. The continental um, seabed, the coastline of South America is being pushed up by the Pacific plate or the Nazca plate. So there's a lot of volcanoes, earthquakes, and so on in this area. So you have a lot of basalt and you have a lot of andesite and granite as the natural stones in that area. So a lot of these structures are made from that. These now are some more like clay structures that you could indeed attribute to the Inca, while a lot of the other stones seem to be something megalithic. Now, this is a good example where you have clay, megalithic that was rebuilt, but people attribute all this to one group. This now you see is clearly megalithic, very difficult to do, seamless. or tight seam stone fitting together, which is not how we typically build now. And then over here you have that mud structure. Um, a lot of these were also rebuilt during we say Spanish Inquisition. So the Spanish occupied South America at some point. They rediscovered a lot of these places. They restored and tear down a lot of these places using the blocks to build their structures. So a lot of that happened as well. Yeah, some of this is probably after that. This is more andesite type stone again. And so enough on that location. Let's move on to the next one. Derinkuyu. All right, so Derinkuyu is Turkey. One of my concepts is that whoever built um Göbekli Tepe were probably the same persons or same group who built Derinkuyu, but Derinkuyu was later occupied by other persons, and that's who they attributed to. But my synopsis is that whoever built Göbekli Tepe, probably occupied somewhere else before. Göbekli Tepe was one of their newer constructions. They knew of some sort of disaster. They buried Göbekli Tepe and moved underground. So when they moved underground, they switched to this place, built an entire city. So a lot of the caves in Turkey are not just caves with one off. It's entire man-made structures with living quarters, places for animals, places for kitchen, ventilation, everything. It's entire cities that can hold thousands of persons, 20 floors, 20 stories down, so on and so forth. A lot of these are built upon, like you have persons' houses or churches on top of these structures. But they have a few entrances. So this is like one of the entrance beneath a church, and you get into it. Um, like that. Some of them are built into mountainside cliff faces, which doesn't make any sense to be a place where you're hiding during a wartime or something. Because yeah, the underground ones make sense to hide underground. You're hiding from. But if you're building cave structures like this, clearly whoever is the opponent coming to invade, they can see that hey, this thing looks like somewhere persons live or are hiding. So yeah. But these are some more underground entrances. Um, so yeah, on to the next site. All right, so this is in Iraq. A lot of the Iraqi sites, so you have Iraq, Iran. A lot of these sites, is very bad because you have two levels of destruction. You have the Arabs in the past who have destroyed a lot of these things when they switched to Islam, and then you have the many wars that have been happening in these areas with Americans. So a lot of these places have been destroyed, but as you can see, they have things like these that is attributed to the ancient Sumerian that came before the Persians. So yeah, a lot of these would still have been there, probably have been destroyed. But I still have it on the list as one of those major locations. Um, this now is Alam. It's significant because it's part of Sahara, but as you see, at some point the Sahara was below the ocean, so or it was a sea. So a lot of these are whale fossils. So this is not a dragon. This is not a dragon fossil. This is just a whale fossil. So a lot of whale fossils have been found in this part of the Sahara. So most persons think it's more towards the Mediterranean side of the Sahara that has these whale fossils, but no, it's more towards the Egyptian side of the Sahara that has a lot of whale fossils. So um, I have this on the list as one of the megalithic area that might have been occupied in the past. And this is um, Egypt again. So you have a lot of sites in Egypt. So what happened is a lot of the Egyptian sites that are closer to the delta where the Nile washes into the Mediterranean Sea. The Nile actually flows from the southern section of the map towards the north. So it actually deposits in the Mediterranean Sea. So it's flowing from Ethiopia, Sudan, so on and so forth, to Egypt, then into the Mediterranean. So a lot of the places that here are some both in Upper and Lower Egypt. So you have um, Aswan, some aspect of Aswan have um, been now also submerged underwater. Some of the places in near the delta region of the Nile are fully underwater. So you can find a lot of these structures, statues, pillars, and so on under the water. So a lot of this is in these like bays. Like so a significant amount of stuff could be under the water. Like entire complexes. Yeah. Um, colossal statues like these, fully detailed. So let's see, they're taking it up from the water. I believe this was in the 80s or the 70s. They were doing that. So these are some of the broken pillars, some of the statues. More statues, I guess. Some of these were from Roman times as well. So yeah, that's. Moving on to the next site. If you guys have any question, you can ask in the comments. So this is another location. This one is in, I believe, France or Spain or Portugal. Is that Portugal? But yeah, all right, yeah, Portugal. So this is in Europe. Um, Megalithic kind of construction. They're carving into bedrock. Um, they seem like a sulfur stone, seem like limestone. So it's probably easy to carve into. This look very similar to a lot of stuff in Peru. That's kind of how carved into the bedrock in Peru. Um, yeah, so this is very similar. So yeah, that's kind of why I added this to the list. It's in the general area of the Mediterranean. So if some stuff is on the African side, and you can have some similar stuff on the European side of the Mediterranean. Um, but it's mainly just this old crop that has these weird kind of bedrock constructions. This is just a church in the area. So that's one place on the list. And we on to the next. So I believe this is in Indonesia. Yeah, so Indonesia has these statues that are actually very similar to the Moais, very similar to the pillars in the pillars in what a lot of persons don't know is that a lot of the pillars in um Göbekli Tepe are actually depictions of the persons and they're holding their hands like this. Similar to how the Moai does it, this one has like more detail, as you can see. Um, in this area too, they have a lot of large jars that are the size of cars. They seem to have been made to hold water. But you have a lot of these statues here, very reminiscent of the Moais. It's kind of weird if you look at the map where this place is. So this place is here. It's one of the few stops you'd have made if you're coming from this direction. One of the few stops you'd have made before you get to Easter Island over here. So these look very similar to what the Moais would have looked like. I see these are the Moais. Yeah, a lot of these places have these statues that look kind of like what the Moais look like. So there's some more culture or something. Um, this one takes you over to Mexico. So in Mexico, you have these things called the Olmec heads. Some persons, you have a myth that they were jade collectors. You have a myth that they were uh, rubber collectors. Some persons say they look Asian. Some persons say they have African features. Uh, I'll let you be the judge. But yeah, those would be the Olmec heads. It could be workers, miners, who knew how to work in stones. They built these things. A lot of these things were found buried, so here are some more in this location of Mexico. A lot of these were found buried and they were dug up and then kind of cleaned up. So they're not attributed to the Aztec or the Mayans. The Olmec is kind of separate from that. It supposedly predate most of the Mexicans that are there now. To Guatemala, you have a similar thing. The thing with Guatemala, you have a lot of stone, with weird stone balls, and a lot of statues that look like very similar to the style of the Olmec, but it's not heads. It's more like full statues, but it's a very similar style to what the Olmec was doing. So it's like this. It's kind of a mix between a Buddha and an Olmec head. Yeah, so it's very similar. The type of stone is, I believe, volcanic tuff. There's a lot of volcanoes in Guatemala, like Costa Rica and so on. A lot of, so yeah, so that's kind of also, these are some more of the similar stones. So yeah, that's why this place is on the list. So then continue on. This now is in China, so we got another Chinese site, UNESCO site in China. Um, this is carved into bedrock. Um, The Chinese depictions of these are considered Buddhist temples or tombs. So it's either gonna be listed as Buddhist tomb. So yeah, that's what they automatically did. A lot of these places as so who knows what this place would have been in the past. Uh, I see hundreds or maybe thousands of clip face tombs. We'll call them tombs as well. Some are shrines. See some of these massive. Let's say that's somewhere in China. That's on the list. So one interesting one in India. Is that India? Yes. Well, that's India. A lot of these will be attributed to Hinduism, Hindu temples. You'll see a lot of bull depictions, elephants, other things, but there's like a gel or melted into the cultures of India, Cambodia, Indonesia, China, Japan. They kind of flow into each other as it transitions from Hindu type structures to Buddhist type structures. So you see, this kind of looks very similar to what we're seeing in the Chinese side just 2 sides ago, but the motifs of the depictions are slightly different, but the style of how the stone is carved is very similar. So yeah, that's somewhere in India. And then let's see, this is this seems this is New Zealand. So one of the few New Zealand sites that is on this list. I believe it's called like Kaumawa Wall. It's a- Aboriginal. So it's before colonization. This wall was has some, I believe, Egyptian type inscriptions on it. So that's kind of why this wall was added to the list. Um, so I'm not sure if it was a whole structure that was here before, what kind of shapes overgrown. Um, but yeah, they have found inscriptions on some of these stones that look very similar to Egyptian type inscriptions. But yeah, because it's more of a tropical zone, it's kind of overgrown compared to, let's say, sites that are in deserts. So a lot of erosion have happened to these blocks, and a lot of the forest has grown and covered a lot of the site. Um, but it's in the general area of kind of where a lot of other sites are. So as you see, we have some sites here, and you could have persons traveling here being a stop off location before getting to Easter Island. Because the whole structure of the map is imagine that someone is traveling from the Mediterranean through to Asia, then through to Polynesia, then to Easter Island. So Easter Island would be the main stop. I believe Hawaii is way up here, so Even if someone stopped in Hawaii, Hawaii would have been a lot different because it's a lot more volcanically active. So even if someone stopped there, built walls, built statues, a lot of those might have been destroyed by how active the volcanoes in Hawaii are. So the volcanoes in East Ireland are a lot more dormant. So a lot of the things that were built in the past are still there, like Hawaii statues. Even the quarry for the Moais are still there. So it would have been one of the stop off locations before you get to there. So now to the other site, get to Fiji. Um, I don't remember what I marked in Fiji. So I can't find what I marked in Fiji. I had Fiji listed as one of the locations. So the statue of Ramses in Barbados. So that marker is gone. Full Tango, yeah. I found a few statues and quarries here, but I couldn't find the exact location on the map, so that's one is not marked properly. It's about to Europe now, so this is a megalithic site in Europe. Um, use this is a tomb, and there's a Colosseum or a theater, or the theater. So I marked a lot of these sites down. They were built upon by the Romans or the Greeks because some of their foundations are reminiscent of what you would find in Peru, with polygonal shape and blocks or style of construction, but it's less refined. This is also in Europe. It's near the Pillars of Hercules. It's more. Uh, Yes, these are called dolmens. It's like a burial type area. They put those large supermassive stones over the top, some multi-ton type stones. So, and this type of tomb is reminiscent of the one that we just looked on. So, you also find out that these in Romania, um, but less, it's more just like the raw stone, not properly shaped. Then we're on to the next. I believe we had Israel on the list because of other persons all know that in Israel the wall that they pray to, there is a subterranean underground aspect of it, and all of the stones as large as the stones you'd find in in Lebanon or the stones you'd find in Egypt. They're very large stones. This now is a temple in India. It's that temple that looks like it's on a chariot with wheels being pulled by animals. So a lot of the temples in India are these complex, super refined type structures. India is kind of plays of its own in how complex its statues and its buildings are compared to other sites. One of the intricate details in India. I believe where is this now? This is back in Europe again. Oh yeah, I believe this is Italy. So it's a quarry, but the strangeness of the quarry is that there were perfect columns cut directly from the bedrock, but it's cut top down. So it's like something was going around these things, making these perfect columns from the top down in the bedrock. So these are some of the broken pieces, but it was like straight down. Um, they were digging the column segments or sections, which is kind of strange. But it could be a Roman quarry, but it's just a bit strange how the quarry itself was just having perfect circles being lifted out. Like someone was using a giant rotary core drill or something, taking out entire multi-ton segments of stones. So here's some more of the stones. Um, so I listed that place on this list for that reason. This is in Italy again. But Italy would have been Rome in the past. Not sure why I listed this place. Seeing to review that one. And so here we're back in Indonesia or Malaysia. You have a Buddhist slash Hindu temple. This is volcanic top. A lot of these structures are made from volcanic tops. But let's see, the bricks are perfectly formed. Um, almost like they made the bricks, then carved in relief for um, these depictions. So you have a very small style between India, Cambodia, Indonesia. So that's why this place is on the list. But artists are attributed to more recent civilizations. There's a few hundred years ago, so they're saying that a lot of these sites are like 600 years old or so. This one is right next door in Indonesia as well, but it's a more massive complex. This place is huge. I believe this one has some Buddhist statues inside these bell type structures. As you see, you have these. Again, this is all volcanic tuff, perfectly shaped, fit together amazingly. This is a massive structure. As you see, here are the people. This place is a huge complex. And a lot of these bell type construction. And then you have the fine-tuned detail that was carved into a lot of these. Now, you find a lot of these human and elephant type carvings between India and Indonesia again. So if you go to Kailash Temple or the Ellora Caves, you'll find elephants being depicted. A lot of people, a lot of it tells stories. And here is another view. You have this massive bell and then the smaller bells right there. I believe if you view from the top, it makes like a special sign. Not sure if they show the top view. Here is the Buddha's statues inside some of these bell tower things, showing the top down view. But the top down view is it has like a really elaborate pattern from the top down view. Top view. Yeah, so this is kind of how it looks. Not very large picture. Yeah, yeah, bigger picture dude. Come on. No one is giving me a large picture. But yeah, this is kind of how it looks from the top down. It's a very elaborate construction. Yeah, so this will be the large bell and then the much smaller bells, which kind of reminds us of the um Atlantis thing where it's circle of land and circle of water. You have a circle, then another circle, then another circle. So three concentric circles. If you look at Angkor Wat from the top as well, it's kind of a similar thing, although it's not circles, it's square moats with water, but it's very reminiscent of the Atlantis kind of construction. So that's that location. On to the next. Two is also in Indonesia. Um, very similar construction style being renovated there. Yes, a lot of it has fallen over. A lot of these structures were not built with steel or cement. It was just built with clamps. Some of the clamps were metal, some of the clamps were stone. Um, Plus, Indonesia is a bit more humid and tropical, so you have a lot more rainfall, a lot more erosion compared to other locations. So that's why some of the structures would look like this. You have a lot of overgrowth, a lot of trees growing on these temples or structures. Um, so that's kind of also why a lot of these might have been attributed to newer groups of people because there would be a lot of organic material in these sites. Like just means these persons were the most recent occupants and not necessarily the builders of these sites. Yeah. So on to the next place or next site. This one is also Indonesia. Uh, it's attributed to Buddhism. Most of the Indonesian sites will be listed as Buddhist. Um, yeah, that's a detail in these ones. Similar construction style as the rest of Malaysia. It's volcanic top again. carved in a shrine. This also has a similar bell kind of structure that we saw in the previous site. Uh, yeah, so it has these bells on top again. So they're very similar to the other sites. It is a Buddhist monastery in Indonesia. Again, similar bell structure at the back right there. So a lot of these sites are very similar. If we're calling it a bell, but it could have been a space capsule, a spaceship capsule, kind of like what NASA or SpaceX would put someone in. Yeah, this little capsule at the front of your spaceship, and Buddha is sitting in it. Um, this looked very similar to what's in Angkor Wat with the four-sided faces. Um, One other person will say different civilization built it different years apart. They were just mimicking what they saw in some other place. So yeah, that's rather than say it's built by the same group or built thousands of years in the past. That's kind of how it will be said. This is very similar to what you'll find in India. Just the facial features might be different, but the carving style is very, very similar. Yeah, that's on to the next side. So we're deep in the list now. Let's see where this is. It's also Indonesia. Very similar again. I'm playing the background, the music. Uh, as you see, very similar construction styles. All right, so now we're out to Indonesia. We're into Peru. I believe this is called the what? I believe it's called a Stargate. But it's basically basalt outcrop, and then it looks like lava, but then there's this weird cut into this rock, and then this weird little doorway that was cut into the rock. So it's kind of the outcrop right here, and it's just one of these dikes or outcrops that they someone or some civilization just cut into with seemingly relative ease. Not sure, but yeah, this is kind of how the rocks look. It would have been some sort of formation that formed over millions of years. So as you see, like the whole area has these outcrops, and then one of them is just someone was trying to make some sort of Petra type construction there, but they didn't finish. They just started the process, but they didn't finish. They have these schools as well that might lead underground and so on and so forth. Then you have some cuts into more further cuts into the bedrock nearby. So this is how it looks from this angle. So I have this outcrop here, and then someone was starting to construct something there. Just didn't finish, I guess. So that's why that place is on that list because someone was making cuts into bedrock. We already went through Mauritania when we looked at the recharge structure. This one is in Europe, but let's see if I had any special photos. Here. Not seeing a special photo. Not sure where I marked that. Yeah, so the Western Wall is in Israel. So what we are used to with the Western Wall is this version where it's on top. But the funniest thing is that beneath this wall is the foundation blocks. And the foundation blocks are as large as the ones you'd find in places that have 800 to 1,000 ton blocks. So you see, these blocks up here are small, then these are larger. These are a bit larger. But beneath those, there are some other massive blocks. Let me see if there's any photos of those blocks. So this is the underground section. Still not seeing any of the more massive blocks. That's But yeah, there are blocks that are as big as the Trilaton blocks in Lebanon or the 800-ton blocks that you will see in Egypt or Peru. Yeah, but this didn't show any of those. But it's under the ground. There's an underground section of this complex that has like a tunnel, and that's where you get to see. Let's see if I can Google this. Western Wall Foundation. Here we go. This is a better picture. I saw a better picture. Here is a perfect picture right there. See right here. This is all one block right here. Extend all the way down that way, all the way across. And this is a person standing next to this block. So this is the foundation beneath the Western Wall. So the foundation has some very large blocks, so that's why this is on the list. Oh, so the next is the Temple of Jupiter, which has some similar large blocks. So Temple of Jupiter. So these look very similar to what we're seeing being taken from the quarry in the Turkey section of the video when we saw those perfect circles being cut down into the bedrock. And it's a very similar type of stone, and it's very similar segmented, being fit together to make these columns. Some repairs that were done, so some of the stones were probably broken in some battle or something. Yeah, this is Temple of Jupiter. But here you have Thailand, so you have some sites in Thailand that we could consider to be megalithic. Let's see if there's any pictures here. And so I'm not finding the pictures of the site, but I had marked it for some reason. Oh, here it is. So this is very reminiscent of what we saw in, so this is clearly repaired. So it's a repaired site, but it's very reminiscent of what we saw in India, in Cambodia, in Indonesia, in Malaysia. Um, almost the same type of construction. So yeah, that's why this is on the list. And then, all right, another one of those strange sites from China. So we don't get a lot from China, but when we do, those Chinese sites are spectacular. So this is actually a quarry, and this this thing is not even funny. These blocks are not 1,000 tons and not a few hundred tons. These are over 60,000 tons if they were actually going to be moved. That's how massive these things are. So they had quarried the sides, quarried underneath, and the last part was to cut it from the bedrock. These things are massive. This is a human being right here compared to the size of these things that they were quarrying. These are the strange knobs that you see in the same knobs in Peru, but this is on a much larger scale. So I don't know. They said it was some emperor that told them to quarry these things, but died before they did anything with it or something. That's kind of the story that they have going. But this quarry location is this gap can fit trucks. So trucks can drive through these gaps. That's how large these stones are that they were quarrying. So I'm not sure how they plan to move it. So there's unlike in Lebanon where the massive stone blocks that were like 1,600 tons, a few of them were moved and placed, or some of them were dropped away from the quarry. So those were moved. But these ones, we have no clue how they were planning to move them. So I see this is a person down at the other end. This person is standing at the other end, took the picture, and you can see how massive these stone blocks are. So clearly someone cut the sides, cut the gap between this one and this one up here underneath. But no clue how they were going to move them. So this is an Asian quarry in China, and that's how big these blocks are or were. So there's usually a picture with someone standing on top of one of them. Okay, so this is a good this is a good depiction as well. There's a kid standing right next to it. No clue how they were going to move this. And here's another good view. Show you the scale of these things. There, these stones were being quarried. Alright, so that's the site in China, the Yangshan Quarry. Alright, so this site is in Ecuador. So I have a whole chain of megalithic sites. This is what I believe whoever made these sites, they came in from this part of Israel and they landed here, and then they ventured up this way. But every so often, a few of them went that way and started construction in this direction. So you have a few places that are megalithic in the opposite direction, but a majority of the sites here Starts from Peru, Cusco, Sacsayhuaman, so on and so forth, Pumapunku, leading into Bolivia and up the Andes. So that's kind of how that little trail right here goes. If you zoom in a little, you can see a little bit better. So you see, all megalithic sites are along this little path, and then you have a few that dotted right here, leading into Colombia. So that's kind of how I think it went. So for this complex here in Ecuador, you can see very similar megalithic type of stonework, mixed with some loose stones. So this is a reconstruction. As you see, they use cement here. So a lot of the megalithic stuff was not done with cement. It was done with normal stone. This is kind of what I've been wondering. Is like, when did everybody move from wood and touch or mud and went into perfect stoneworks like this, perfect megalithic polygonal construction. Um, where you see perfect shapes, they're doing plumbing, waterworks into the stone, so on and so forth. They basically playing with this stone like it's putty. Um, You'll see this exact type of construction in Greece, in Italy. The archway is not perfectly straight, it's a bit inclined. You'll see this stuff in Peru. So and this is Ecuador. So it's very reminiscent of similar style of construction. So on to the next location. So yeah, this is one of those places in Peru that looks like they were just toying with the stone. This looks like what we would do when we do a model or a 3D model or model of a city or something. They were doing that in andesite, which is almost as hard as granite, or is a type of. um, or maybe this was limestone. It's limestone. No, it doesn't look like limestone, like gray andesite. So yeah, gray andesite. They're doing this stuff in, and they're doing these perfect cuts all over. It's basically just all over the place in Peru. And if you look closer, there are a lot of full depiction of stuff in this. Someone has had built a model of this, but it's basically a representation of the site. Yeah, these each thing here being a different thing. That's one of the places in Peru. This is right here. Um, we go to another. So the next on the list is Bolivia. So it's the last place in this little trail right here. Let's see why this was on the list. So they seem to have been working in down into the bedrock. So I guess that's why this was on the list. Yeah, they were basically either quarrying or maybe are doing construction into the bedrock out crop right there. This is kind of the last place at the mark in Bolivia. All the other places are more towards Peru in on the Bolivian side. But yeah, they were making similar styles of construction into the bedrock that we're seeing in Peru. And it falls on this little trail that we said we got going right here, where we had this trail coming up from the coast and then leading this way. Um, well, what you would notice is this area here is all rainforest, like thick rainforest, like not a joke type rainforest. Like if something happened to you, a helicopter would take a month to find you. How dense this forest is. So it's not just this section of the Amazon. This whole section here is a lot of rainforest. So not sure what was going on in the ancient times, but a lot of things just stayed along the coast, and then this aspect of the mountain. So maybe the Andes mountain here was supplying this section with water. So they at least had water and made their way this way. I believe Lake Titicaca is somewhere near here as well. And that's one of the largest saltwater lakes, funny enough. It's like 9,000 meters above sea level, but it's it's saltwater. You have fossils of seahorses and stuff in it. So it could have been a lake that was pushed up millions of years ago, because this area of the continent is being pushed up, or it could have been something else. Not sure. Um, so on to the next site, and we're in Peru still. This is a bit more crude of a construction, but it still has a similar style. You have this beam at the top, and then you have the archway that's a bit inclined. The stones are a bit loosely cut, it's not perfectly formed. But then you'll see these that's kind of perfectly cut. So they gonna look in, and they have this, they always have this little gap right here. Not sure. But this is very, oh, there you have right here now, so you can spot it that this is megalithic. This is not megalithic, and then this is a reconstruction. So there was something here. Someone reoccupied it, then reconstructed it. But you can see this part is clearly different from what you're seeing here. Then you have some of these type of cuts that you're seeing in the bedrock. The water here. So there was something out here in this section of Peru, but and you can see there's someone who was trying to reconstruct something reminiscent of what was here before. And then here you can see the megalithic work right there. The next site. This is in Japan. So it's Japan, but it's underwater. So Japan has a few megalithic looking sites. Some persons, for some reason, say this is natural terraces. Um, but it looks pretty uniform in its construction. Um, but this, they're saying it's this type of stone is kind of just breaks off in this kind of pattern that makes it looks man-made. Um, I marked it on the list still because this looks pretty uniform in comparison to what's up here. What's up here doesn't look like you're seeing sharp right angles, um, and a lot of stuff like that. You should have been seeing a lot of rounded edges like you're seeing at the top there. You have this little channel way that's in the rock, like this looks like a man-made type of tunnel or some tunnel or something. Mark that on the list. Now we're back in Peru, and they have these. I believe I have a video on this, where you see people in the area reconstructed these towers, but it's clearly not as refined as this. Not sure what these were used for, but the outside is perfect, but inside they just dumped some rocks inside. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is how it looks on the outside. They also have animal depictions on them when you get in close. I believe this is overlooking one side of Lake Titicaca. So this is one part of Lake Titicaca, and then there's like some other regions that you have some other stuff. So these blocks are actually pretty large. Not sure what destroyed them. You see, like this one is broken in half. Not sure what did the damage was an earthquake or something. But yeah, this is how they look. It's they just build those and fill them with stones. Not sure what they were used for. You kind of see the knobs on them, like you see on a lot of the stones in Peru, but they fit seamlessly. Um, not seamlessly, like tight seams. But yeah, they just did it like this. I don't know I'm not sure what this indentation is here, but yeah, that's kind of how they look. It's not a broken one. Oh, here's the perfect picture. So someone did this. So this is clearly not this. This is just some loose stones packed together into a circle and then built up a tower. This is perfectly cut, perfectly shaped. You have this little rim right here. Yeah, this perfect dome on top. Even the mats to build a dome like this is pretty extraordinary to build domes like those. Not just a simple construction. So whoever did this is not the same group that did this. So not sure. But yeah, both of these are attributed to the same group. So you can take that with a grain of salt. And yet, this type of stone is the same andesite and basaltic bedrock. Um, they quarried it, built these. First, this is Lake Titicaca, largest saltwater lake, I believe, in the world, or the highest lake in the world as well. It's over nine 9,000 meters or something. Um, but yeah, that's that location. We'll go to Bayon Temple. This is in Cambodia. So we're back to the Asian region. A lot of these temples are very similar to, as we were saying, India type of style, Indonesia, Malaysia, and both the Hindu and the Buddhist temples are very similar. You'll see these faces, four faces. You have a face here, a face here, a face here, a face on the other side. Um, they were carved after the bricks were placed where I assume, or maybe they carved it and then assembled it like Legos. Not sure, but um, that's how they look. So you'll see a lot of these faces right here. Yeah, this is very reminiscent of Angkor Wat as well. Let's see what's next on the list. Oh, the Great Pyramid. We're just making it to the Great Pyramid. So the Great Pyramid, everyone knows about the Great Pyramid. Yeah, the Sphinx, the Temple of the Sphinx, all that stuff is the whole complex. It's in the desert. It's near where the Nile is. The blocks is over 2.5 or 2.3 million blocks were used in the construction. It used to have casing stones. This is one of the entrance where I believe a French explorer archaeologist blew up this entrance with dynamite or TNT before they knew where the real entrance was or something. So this is the Great Pyramid. It's massive. It's huge. It's all of those things. Clearly one of the sites we would label as megalithic. Um, yeah, this is the Sphinx. I've undergone several facelift reconstruction. You have um, bricks on the outside to prevent more erosion. It was once covered up to its neck in sand. Um, see that Sphinx covered in sand. So yeah, this is how it looks when they found it. This whole area was for the sand dunes, the sand in the desert was low. So it's kind of always covered in sand. So that kind of saved it over the years. Would have saved the body, but would have left the head exposed to erosion. So it could have been. So one of the other controversies is that all of this right here looks like water erosion. So there is no way water erosion was happening if it always looked like this. It is always buried in sand. There's no way. this is happening. So this had to have happened before this was a desert because there's no way all this erosion happened when there was all this sand because immediately all of this would get covered in sand and then there would be no erosion. So that erosion had to have happened before it was a desert. The last time this place was not a desert was um, at least 6 to 8 thousand years ago. So yeah, that's one of those things. That's a controversial thing. But yeah, this is some depictions of some other buildings and stuff in the area. And then this is a aerial view of how massive the pyramids are. And then we're on to the next. Oh no, there's still a lot on this list. So back in India we have the giant boulders that basically teeter on the edge, and people go and take photos with them. But you have these cave carvings, and some of these caves are perfectly shine on the inside. Some of them are just these type of cave type carvings that are very similar to the Allura caves. So if we look at where it is on the map, very similar to the Allura cave, but I believe the Allura caves are on this side, but this temple is here, or this cave is on this side. Let's see, this looks like this. It's kind of just like some rock outcrops, and then someone carved these elaborate structures into it. And another depiction of elephants, as I was mentioned earlier, that's typical with the Indian, Hindu, and Buddhist structures. You'll see all the carvings like those. And these bricks are similar to what you see in Indonesia, just less erosion. Cambodia. And we have this whole area um seem to have collapsed or overgrown. Trees growing over the temple. Um, Another person will say these places are just a few hundred years old, like the 12th century and so on. But it's very similar across the whole region. But this is not just someone's normal home. And the remnants of this place is nearby, basically. Um, let's skip through the list now because it's getting a bit long. So another place on the list is Easter Island. So everybody knows there's a few things about Easter Island because a lot of persons don't know that the Moai are entire statues. Some persons just believe it's just heads. And then there are some persons that don't know nothing about the quarries. So the interesting thing is that the Moais were carved while they were laying down. So as they laid down, they were cut from the bedrock and fully shaped and then lifted out. So a lot of persons don't know about the Moai quarries. So here are the Moais that everybody knows. But if you look in the background of the rocks in the mountain, you can actually see the unfinished Moai in the mountain. There's one here as well. So these are Moai statues. These are Moai statues. This is a Moai actually in the bedrock. As you see, there's one right here. There's the nose. There's one right here. So a lot of persons don't know that these right here are Moais right next to each other. This is one, this is one, this is one. A lot of Moais that were unfinished and were still in the bedrock. And these lakes are probably the remnants of where the volcano was. But yeah, there's a lot of unfinished Moais on Rapa Nui. So it's several things that has happened. You have erosion that has washed down this entire cliff face, cliffside, and the soil has covered these statues that were not intentionally buried, what was buried by nature. And then you have statues that are probably buried in the bedrock that were not lifted out. And then you have ones that are visible, still visible here, that someone carved and didn't finish the process. So they didn't finish lifting all the Moai statues. And then some of these are the largest ones. This one is massive. This one is massive in comparison to these that you can see. So that's why Easter Island is on the list. Coricancha is a nice place as well. It's one of the more perfect type of megalithic stone that was used, but it was built upon by a Spanish church or the Roman Catholic Church. So a church was built upon this place. But you can see these stones are perfect. And this is andesite stone. Believe this used to lead to someplace underground. Um, this is kind of some of what you see in the Coricancha. The stones fit together perfectly. We don't construct like this anymore using natural stones. No, none of this is cement. This is all andesite blocks. You see this? This is perfect again. Like, look at the detail here. Like everything here is perfectly done. This is the arch right here that I was showing in the previous location. And then this is the incline of the doorway, the incline of the window, and then you have the false windows. And then everything is perfect. As you can see, it's different from what this is, because this you can see the clearly cement. So cement was used here to hold these together, but In the original Coricancha, um, there was no cement use. These are some of the blocks. Like you can see how they were using stones like it was wood. They have I mean, perfect cuts in it. They have joints. They have everything is cut in the stone. And then as you can see, these in the background fit together perfectly. No cement. There's absolutely no cement. So they clearly had a different construction style in comparison to what we do now. Um, Next, we're gonna just have to skip some of the sites because let's see if we have Saxawoman. Um, yeah, this is one of the more popular sites because of how massive these blocks are. So it was a whole complex. Once again, they say it's a temple or something, but to me, it looks like a factory. It looks like a water treatment facility. Something. It's absolutely massive. The blocks are huge. It's polygonal. These blocks have all different types of shape. I mean, this is limestone, so these blocks are not as hard as on this side, but they're a lot larger. As you can see, in comparison to the people, it could have also been a fortress, and these would have been the protective walls, and then whoever lived here lived on the top or live on the other side. But it's kind of difficult to attack a city that's already like 8,000 meters in the air. So not sure. But this is how some of the blocks look. And then there's this outcrop that's just in the middle of where the walls are. And then this look like a millionaire type, a million or million years ago type construct tectonic activities, I would say. Um, as you can see the different types of styles of construction. This is clearly not the same as this. And then this is at the foundation. So the more complex, or what we would say difficult thing is at the foundation level. And then someone came along with this repair work again. The more complex stuff is at the bottom. So clearly it was the original. It was there first. Um, So you can see absolutely massive blocks. You can see some level of splacation on the stone, which is erosion or heat can cause that. Oh, someone in the comments said, how about Morocco? Morocco. Let's see if I have anywhere in from Morocco in here. Actually, no, I didn't have anywhere from Morocco in here. But Morocco does have a few places here, but they are more attributed to the Spanish, the Romans, and so on. 'Cause, I believe Al Jedida, and Rabat also here. Al Jedida, out here. This is like an underground aqueduct in Al Jedida in Morocco. So that question was from Nafo. So to answer the question, yeah, Al Jedida is one of those places that has like these amazing constructions, but it can be and it has been attributed to newer European groups. So it's more constructions from Portuguese, Spanish, and even Roman type constructions that were more. But with Morocco, a lot of the names of the places, similar thing with Libya as well. A lot of the names of the places can be attributed to more ancient times, but a lot of the structures there now are attributed to newer generations of our newer civilizations. So yeah, thanks for that question. If other persons have other questions, you can ask as well. This is Abydos. Is one of those places in Egypt. So yeah, Abydos is pretty nice because Abydos has this. Believe that's where you find there are light bulbs as well. So it's Abydos. You have this temple right here, and then the Dendera area, and then beneath this temple there is another temple. We have this temple that has these clearly, let's say, limestone type blocks or sandstone type columns. You have the colors and the vibrant stuff, and then when you go underneath, let's see if they go underneath here, because I believe that's where you have then there are light bulbs. Yeah, so this is the entryway for that temple, and then I'm seeing where the underneath section is. Says, oh yeah, the Assyrian is also right next to this place. You got it. Assyrian is actually at the back of this complex. So there's a lot of megalithic stuff that exists in this one area. So the the Dendera lights is at the bottom of that thing, and then at the back of this one is the Osirian, and the Osirian is spectacular because you cannot actually drain this water from the Osirian. These granite blocks are hundreds of tons. This thing is always filled with water because it actually connects to the water table that's underneath the sand. So this goes on some 6 stories down into the sand, down into the aquifer, into the water table. The water seeps up through the sand, fills this area. So even if you drain all this water, it gets refilled in no time. So one of the concepts is that this place existed before this area had that new water table or the Nile relocated or something. So this area might have existed before that. And then this whole area would have been a complex that went down some 6 stories with hallways, chambers, and all sorts of stuff. But you cannot actually excavate any further than this area because it's all filled with water. And you cannot drain the water because it's all the natural water table of the area. So that's you not really get the full answer for that. So yeah, that's Abydos. See any more popular places on this? I just saw the cigarettes. All right, so the ziggurat of this is in where is this again? It's in Iraq. So in Iraq, you had a lot of these ziggurat type structures. So the ziggurats are not necessarily pyramids. They were more like odd structures, popular with like the Sumerians, popular in Mesopotamia. But it's very similar to it's very similar to pyramids, although pyramids have been attributed to burial locations. Ziggurats were more like temples, but they were more like this kind of mud mounds, very complex like that. So you have a lot of ziggurats all over the place, but mostly constructed from mud bricks and not megalithic stonework, not granite, andesite, limestone, and so on. But they were very popular at some point in the past. Have caves in Tunisia. So although I didn't have Morocco on the list, I have somewhere from Tunisia. Not sure what I found in Tunisia at the time, but I had Tunisia to do this. Go look back to see why I added Tunisia, but I didn't see anything marked in this picture right here. But yeah, I had Tunisia on the list. Yeah, this is a good one. Palace in. So funny enough, the capital of Moscow of Russia, Moscow. So in Moscow, I saw that the foundation of the Kremlin looked kind of megalithic, and then in Japan, this is clearly megalithic right here. If you look at this corner right here, this is exactly what you see in Peru and in Egypt. Look at this right here. So, the actual imperial temple of Japan, which is, Japanese history goes back, so it's thousands of years. And you can see the actual capital, actual imperial city or temple was its own foundation was megalithic. See there, have this perfect one. Like if you look right here, this is exactly what you see in Peru. Looks exactly the same. Look at this. This is almost like a pyramid. And this type of weathering that happens to granite is something that takes place over hundreds of thousands of years. It doesn't just happen a few hundred years apart. It's that level of weathering occurs, and it's called splacation. It takes a while for layers to wear down like this. And then this looks just like what you see in Peru or Egypt. And then here's a depiction of it, yeah. Megalithic polygonal shapes, very reminiscent of Peru. So yeah, Japan has a few megalithic sites. And then as we were saying, you're traveling from this way, traveling along the coastline, you could find yourself in Japan. So Japan is on the list. Let me see if I think there are a few other places in Japan. Cusco. So Cusco is one of the more popular, like all the buildings in Cusco has a lot of megalithic works, and it kind of fuses seamlessly with the newer generation because a lot of the building materials, both used by the Inca and the Spanish, were recycled. So it's just built upon. So you can see the different levels or the different layers of, you see megalithic, you see European, you see Inca construction all mixed together. But they kind of recycle the blocks and so on. So Cusco is a nice area where you have a lot of megalithic construction being done. Didn't see any in this picture right here. Oh, back to Japan. So this is Japan again. Let's see if this one has included pictures. Yeah, there is some good clear sign here that this was megalithic versus this part that might have been a repair that does not look seamless like by this area or over here. So you can see the megalithic construction in some area. I believe there's a forested area in Japan that you have some massive blocks that were left in the middle of the forest. Like, yeah, like this. Like, look at the size of these blocks right here. But Japan does have some megalithic. Um, I'm not finding the location of the forest. So we'll jump ahead. And some more Indian locations. Here are the 12 months in India. So yeah, this is some of the burial practices in India. I believe I marked this because there was a similar style in Romania where you cover the top with these massive stones. So it might have been a burial practice in the past or a way to create shrines. So there's a lot of these in India. They like these. So, oh, the unfinished obelisk. This is another major one. So this is as one, and this is clearly megalithic because the largest. Oh yeah, they say this is how the quarrying was done. You use these dolerite stones, you hit the granite, and it flakes off, and you make these patterns that you see in the background. The Aswan is a lot of people don't know, but Aswan is right next to a river. Or the Aswan area, the river passes, the Nile River passes through Aswan. I believe they built a dam that flooded some area, or some area was going to be flooded naturally. But yeah, so that's one of the major things about Aswan. But we also have the unfinished obelisk that's there, which this is it. So this would have been the largest obelisk ever constructed if it was successfully quarried and removed. But as you can see, this pattern is clearly not this. So it's not the look of the natural stone. You don't get this pattern from just hitting the stone. A lot of persons call these marks scoop marks, but I wouldn't call these scoop marks. I think it was something that was spinning and it ground into the stone that created these patterns. So it dug into the stone rather than something that was cooping the stone or softening and scooping it. So that's kind of how I look at it, and that's how you get these patterns. So yeah, this is kind of how they constructed our quarried stone. They dug around the sides and then they dug underneath and then they kind of leave this spine and then you break the spine and then they lift out whatever you quarried. It's kind of a similar thing that was done in Easter Island. In Easter Island, you kind of made the Moai statues while it was in the bedrock to the shape of the nose, the eyes, the mouth, everything. Then you kind of broke off the spine. Um, you can look that up. So it's my quarry. It's the island. Right. So this statue right here is obviously that they would construct, they would shape it and then break it off. But there's a better picture. Gonna be a bit hard to find. Here it is. Perfect. Yeah, so as you can see, it's perfect. So they would dig around the sides, leave the spine, then break the spine. But then here you can see this is the Moai statue. And if you don't believe it's the Moai statue, you can look here. You can see that it's clearly Easter Island. And you can see this little spine right there. So that's kind of how they did it. They would carve the entire thing while it's in the bedrock. And you can see there's a lot of them still left there. There have more of them. Yeah, more of them right here. And you carve around it and then you break that spine that is holding it to the bedrock. And it's the same thing you do with the obelisk in Egypt. And this is the incline of the unfinished obelisk right here. See if there's another picture. This picture right here. Here's this one. So yeah, they would carve it like that, then carve underneath and get it out afterwards. After you finish carving it. Yeah, that's how they kind of did the Moai statues. So next location after the unfinished obelisk. Yeah, Angkor Thom, but it seemed like someone deleted the location. So let's go to Angkor Wat. So Angkor Thom is a smaller version that looks very similar to Angkor Wat, but it's this manicured. It wasn't really taken care of. So we jump over to Cambodia. So as you can see, if you look on this map here, there's like a cluster of places right here, cluster of places right here, cluster right here, cluster right here, cluster in Egypt, cluster in Mesopotamia, cluster in Turkey. They have a cluster in India, a cluster in Cambodia, a cluster right here in Indonesia, a cluster in China, a cluster in Japan, and then you have the cluster in South America. So here we have this cluster right here in Cambodia. Um, they are very similar to what you'll find in India, very similar to what you'll find in Indonesia. So this is Angkor Wat, one of the more popular places. It's, I believe it's attributed to Buddhist and not Hindu. I believe it was like a Buddhist king or emperor that built it. At some points, maybe some Arab type person took over, like conquered the area and took over. It was abandoned, so on and so forth. But it does have these depiction that is reminiscent of Hindu and Buddhism, and not just Buddhism. But yeah, they'll say it's Buddhist, but clearly this is kind of reminiscent of Hindu as well, and not just Buddhism. And it's known for its like beautiful sunsets, sunrises. It's aligned with the rising of the sun. So yeah, not seeing any of the clamps, but it's also held together with the keystones or the clamps. You have stone clamps and metal clamps that holds the building together. So that's kind of how it's held together. A lot of clamps. So it's an entire complex looks reminiscent of like a Buckingham Palace or something. It's pretty large. So this is Angkor Wat, but there's a moat that goes around it that's very large. The moat is actually pretty deep. Like the amount of material that would have been excavated to make the moats is more than the tons of stones or whatever is used to construct Angkor Wat itself. Yeah. It's a lot of excavation that happened to build this moat right there. Yeah, it has a lot of water features. That's kind of part of what it's popular for. To another location, Paracas. All right, let's go to Paracas. So Paracas is where I believe the original docking of people entering South America occurred on this coastline. Um, believe in Paracas is pretty close to where you see I can't remember what those shrines are called that you can see in the, Does not show those drawings that you can see from the sky. Believe this place has no, it's not showing it. But if it showed it, I believe that's why I marked this area. I believe I marked it because that thing you can see it from the water. So it's like if you're out at sea, you know you're at the correct spot because of that marker that's etched into the side of the mountain. But I'm not seeing it in these pictures. But yeah, let me see if I can find Paracas. Oh, anyway, there it is. It's actually pretty easy to find. So yeah, this thing is etched into the side of the mountain in Caracas. And yeah, this is not sand. This is like stone. Oh, here it is. So this figure is 600 meters, 600 feet, large enough to be seen from 12 miles out at sea. In 2016, they designated it a national whatever. So this thing has been in the cliff face for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So my concept is that if you're a navigator, right? You're a navigator, you coming in from you coming in from over here, you find Rapa Nui, and you know it's correct because they have the Moais on it, but then you go into South America. But when you reach South America, it's all this coastline. So you put a marker to know where to land each time. So yeah, you could land here, but it's the wrong spot. That's not where you're going. You could land here, but that's the wrong spot. You always want to land here. So you have this giant marker that you can see from anywhere from 12 miles out. Then, when you get ashore, when you get ashore, this is your path right here. This is where you're going. This is probably a capital area. You journey again over to here. So you get to Lake Titicaca here and you build some stuff at this lake. So this is Pumapunku. That's where you have the H blocks and so on. Oh, but this is like a central area where there's a lot of megalithic sites right here. But each time they would enter South America, they would enter here, go back all the way up here. So yeah, that's one of the concepts. So in Peru, we have Machu Picchu. So Machu Picchu is one of the more populous sites attributed to the Incas. You do have some megalithic constructions here on the foundation, but a lot of these structures are indeed Inca, because you can see the stonework is a lot different. The terraces also seem to be Inca because They're mainly used for farming. Some places you can use it for harvesting salt that comes from the rocks in the mountains. So, but this area is not used for salt mining. It's more used for farming. But yeah, you can mine salt from mountains as well. So, but this area is a mix of megalithic and Inca constructions. And then a lot of persons go for this view right here, for this angle that they can take a photo. So you're not sure how they got all this material to the top of these mountains. So this part is clearly megalithic. So it's a mix of megalithic and Inca construction. When it was found, it was completely hidden. I can't look. Mm, Machu Picchu. Before. This is a good example. Okay, this is how Machu Picchu looked before they actually rediscovered it. It was just looked like this. It was all overgrown. It's a similar thing with all the pyramids in Mexico. A lot of them just look like regular mounds, look like regular mountains, fully overgrown. And it's the same thing with Machu Picchu. It was fully overgrown. You didn't recognize or notice any of these structures. Was later rediscovered and they cleaned it up. And it's this part you can see is megalithic, then reconstruction in some aspects. So yeah, so that's one of the more popular sites. Let's see what else. Petra. Petra is. See, we have Petra, Jordan, clearly megalithic as well because of these massive excavation that would be needed to carve into all this bedrock. I believe this is sandstone. Um, and it's not a small place. It's not just one thing. It's 9 kilometers of what they call tubes, but clearly it might have been a city at some point. So all of this is Petra. You could walk for 5 hours and you would still be in Petra. So it's not just this. It's a lot more structures all over entire cliff, all over entire mountain, all over entire canyon. That's what Petra is. All of these up here is part of Petra. All of this, all of this, all of this side and around and around. Um, yeah, this as well. All of this. You have entire Colosseum, we have entire outdoor theaters. Yeah, so all of that is Petra. And then, so Petra Jordan is right here. Lebanon is right there. What's next? Yeah, and Göbekli Tepe is right here. So One of my concepts, let me get into some theoretical concepts. So one of my concepts is you have the out of Africa theory. So 200,000 years ago, they came across here into Europe. Then you have some went this way, some went that way. Anyways, you have Neanderthals, then are still into humans, basically. At some point, everybody became like super intelligent or advanced or whatever. They started up here, built Göbekli Tepe. Something happened. They buried Göbekli Tepe, moved underground, built these things. We started calling them cavemen. But it's not cavemen where they lived in caves that were natural caves. It's caves that they built. Then, after centuries or thousands of years in these cave-like structures, they recognized that it was safe to relocate. So they came down. So they buried this, built these, then they came down into the Tigris, Indus Valley, uh, not Indus Valley, Tigris region of Mesopotamia, started civilization. They used some of the knowledge that they have with working with stone, living underground for how long, to also learn how to quarry stone. So they built these Baalbek and Jordan as more fancier versions of so Petra. Petra is a more fancier version of this. So after thousands of years of doing this, they understood how to do this. Um, they also knew farming and stuff, so they taught this era how to do farming and stuff. At some point, they ventured onto the sea. When they ventured onto the sea, they ventured on to Egypt and up the river Nile. So they started here. So most of their original stuff in Egypt would have been this section of Egypt. Then they moved up and then the as one is up here. So they move up this way. And that's how they built some of their stuff. So that's kind of one of my wild theories. This is a nice one as well. This is the Rock Cut Church. Very similar to Jordan, Petra Jordan, and very similar to the Kailasha Temple or Ellora Caves in India. But this one they say is a church because it does have a cross on the top, but it's cut into the bedrock. The level of planning that you need to build something like this is immense because you cannot make any mistakes. You have to remove just enough material, then leave enough so then these designs and these patterns and doorways and everything would fit perfect. That would make sense. So building something this way is very difficult. But yeah, this is the Rock Cut Church in Ethiopia. What a lot of persons don't know is that the largest obelisk are not, it's two things. The most pyramids are not in Egypt. A lot of them are in Sudan, and then the largest um obelisk are not in Egypt. They're in Ethiopia. But some of them are falling over and broken. But yeah, that's something interesting. All right, so this is Baalbek here. So Baalbek is a bit funny because you it's attributed to the Romans, but you can clearly see that they did some reconstruction on something that was much larger. So this is typical of what you see, these massive blocks at the foundation, and then these Roman style construction on top of the much larger foundation. Um, there's a quarry that's near, like, not necessarily nearby, it's like 5 miles away or 3 miles away that has these massive stones. It's called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. And yeah, this is the stone. Funny enough, it's the same style as what is happening as one where you carve around the sides, then you leave the spine, and then you break the spine. It's the same. Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't realize I was so low this whole time. So yeah, this is very similar to the. It's very similar to the quarrying style that was used in quarrying style that was used in Easter Island, Egypt, and so on, where you quarry on the side, break the spine, and so on. And you can see this angle here where they're doing it, and then this is how large the stones are. So yeah, these massive blocks were moved and placed at the foundation of this in Baalbek. And then the Romans, oh, here's the photo. And then the Romans came and constructed on top. So this is what some of the foundation blocks look like. And then we move on to, all right, so the Ajata Caves. uh, This is another interesting one. So is this cave in this river valley? Like it's river, this is a valley, but yeah, this river area. So clearly this river floods, it's basically parallel to all these caves. But yeah, this is where the river level is at the moment. I guess this is a part of it. The Alora Caves is a part of Let's see where it is in the map. Yeah, it's right next to the Ellora Caves. It's basically a part of the same complex. Yeah. So I guess it's one river system. That's where you have the Ellora Caves, which is mostly called the Kailasha Temple. And this is the more famous one. It's no, this is the most complex rock cut temple in the world. It literally has upstairs, downstairs, it has balconies, it has bridges, it has obelisk, it has elephants, it has yeah, it's an entire complex, and you have the surrounding caves, compartments. The inside is fully decorated with columns and everything. Um, so the level of construction to do that is you would remove more material than you have left remaining. You literally carve you literally carve down an entire mountain to construct this, and you can see how perfect these columns are. These are absolutely perfectly cut. Um, they say that this was done with copper tools. Not sure how you do that. This is a form of basalt that came up and made this mountain millions of years ago from some sort of tectonic activity. And then sometime later, human beings or someone came and made these caves. As see these, they made these depictions, they made these columns. Um, all of these are inside this temple complex. As you see, it's an entire mountain that was carved down to make this amazing thing. Here you have the elephant. So they made the time to carve this elephant. It's still attached to bedrock. This obelisk is part of the original bedrock. It's not. It wasn't added later. As you can see the two colors of the stone, the natural striations of the stone in the temple. So this is not paint. This is the stone color changing when you carve the different layers. Yeah, this is some other angles of the Kailasha temple. They built staircases. Minimal repair had to be done to this place. I believe some Arabian king at some point in the past tried to deface or demolish some of these statues, but the most they did was just break off some of the noses. So a lot of the statues don't have any nose. Some of the elephants they lost their trunks, but as you see this connects back to the previous cave system that we're looking at. The so it's all of these caves are in a similar area, which is let's see, so this not kind of northern section of India. From Tiwanaku. So I believe Tiwanaku is near where Pumapunku is. Yeah, so it's near where Pumapunku is, and that's where you have the H blocks. So it's in the general Lake Titicaca area. I believe this is Lake Titicaca. Yes. Yeah, so that's Lake Titicaca. So you have these sites dotted along where the lake is, and then When you cross into Bolivia, you have Pumapunku. So the lake is in Peru and Bolivia, and then you have some sites on the Peru side, and then um, Pumapunku and Tiwanaku on the Bolivia side, and that's where you get the H blocks. So the H blocks, as I see, this site is amazing in terms of construction style. Everything is perfectly level, perfectly cut. All of this is on the side. This is the Sun Gate, I believe. These are underside blocks on the site. These are the H blocks. Contrary to popular belief, all the H blocks are not the same. So it's not a mold. They weren't built from mold or cement. They were andesite block that was cut. Another thing that's funny with these blocks, they are magnetic. So andesite can have different composition of metal. So it can be behind iron, it can be behind um, aluminum, and so on. But these ones seem to be behind iron, and they seem to be permanently magnetized. So what happens if you put a compass near different sections of these blocks, they point in different directions. So it's still magnetized. So maybe whatever construction method was used on them was something magnetic. Um, and something magnetic can cut stone, even if the stone is not um, high in iron, because most metals are um, actually magnets can affect them, but it's just that it affects iron now in a way that makes it permanent. But um, yeah, paramagnetic, ferromagnetic, so on and so forth. Those properties still copper is still influenced by magnets, silver, so on and so forth. But the magnet has to be moving. So if a magnet is spinning, if the magnetic field is spinning, it can affect copper, it can affect aluminum, it can affect silver, it can affect gold, so on and so forth. But I believe cobalt, nickel, and iron are the ones that like they get permanently magnetized, but the rest is just when the magnetic field is moving, it affects it. So all these H blocks are magnetic. So whatever process made them might have been something related to magnetism. As you see, this is perfectly smooth. They insist that this was done by chisels and rocks, but this looks a lot more smooth. These statues look very similar to some in Mexico. So maybe we'll get to that Mexico site soon. But these look exactly like those Mexican depictions. And then this is the Sun Gate, I think. Picture of the beach block. We did Easter Island already. We just went to Pumapunku when we looked at the other temple location. We looked at Göbekli Tepe. Hey, let's see if I never had. Oh, that's regular Göbekli Tepe. I was wondering if I had the Göbekli Tepe quarry. Sorry, what's this? So yeah, that's the end of the list, basically. So it's all the megalithic sites that I have mapped. Um, basically, basically, this is the map, the sites. If you took a journey from the Richard structure and you entered into the Mediterranean, go all the way near Egypt, exit the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, cross Yemen, down to India, pass by Cambodia, Malaysia, and Indonesia, go up near China and Japan, come down to Nam, Fiji, and Togo, cut across the Easter Island, and then enter Peru at Paracas, and then continue on here. This would be your journey in the pre-Diluvian megalithic world. And then on your way back, it would be the reverse. So you go back this way. There's no, there would be no, oh, I reach here and then I'll cut through the Panama Canal and then go back through the Caribbean and back over here now. So there's no, also, it was 12,000 years ago, there would be probably an ice age. So there would be no cutting through around here because you'd have massive icebergs or just all ice. So there'd be no sailing around the tip of this area here. So there's no Panama Canal and there's no sailing that way. So that might be the reason why there's no real megalithic sites in Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Florida. There's no real megalithic sites there. Also, although a lot of persons consider Stonehenge a megalithic site, I don't have Stonehenge on my list. I don't really see any of these groups going all the way up there. Plus, Stonehenge doesn't really match any of the construction styles that I see in any of these other locations. So, these are the places. If you want this map and access to all these locations, just leave a comment and leave the link on your comment. I'll just add the, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching and sorry about the low audio. Didn't know it was so low.